This portion of the video explains how to complete a monthly invoice for the lump sum payment type. To complete a monthly invoice on any payment type, you must first set up a master template, as indicated in the beginning of this video. Once you have set up the master template file, open it up and click Save As. Name the file with your firm name, the contract and work authorization numbers, and the date of the particular billing. This step keeps your master template clean for all future billings. The Instructions tab is the first one on the left. This section contains detailed instructions and important policies pertaining to the rest of the tabs in the invoice sheet. Each section of the instructions has a link that takes you directly to that tab. Within each tab, you can link back to the relevant instructions section. The second tab on the template is the function code list. For your reference and information as you populate labor summary sections with current and legacy function codes and account numbers. The COA Invoice Conversion tab is for TxDOT use only and is auto-populated from the Invoice tab. On the Invoice tab and all others where you will enter monthly data, all the master template cells that were highlighted in blue have already been completed, and now you will be filling in the remaining yellow cells with your specific monthly information. Start with your provider invoice number in the top right. If you don't have a TxDOT invoice number, leave that cell blank. Fill in the billing period start and end dates. For lump sum, the begin service date will be the date that the deliverable was submitted to the TxDOT PM for review and approval, and the end service date will be the date that the deliverable was accepted and approved by the TxDOT PM. Fill in the fiscal year. We are in fiscal year 2021, since this billing example is for an April 2021 invoice. Reference the Instruction tab for additional information. The cells shown in white will auto-populate as you enter data in each of the tabs to the right of the Invoice tab. The yellow cells in the Invoice Detail section are not filled in at this time. The data for these cells will be entered at the end of the process when we come back to this tab. The next tab is the Signature Authority page. It is not filled out until the rest of the invoice is completed. In the Work Authorization Financial Status Summary, you will fill in previous invoice billing fields if you have them. Enter the previous invoiced amount, $51,204.86. Under the Deliverable Breakdown by Project and Source section, scroll down to cell A43 and select the applicable CSJ number from the drop-down menu. Then move to cell B43 and select the applicable function code from the drop-down menu. Scroll up to cell C13 and enter the deliverable description. The description should match the line item for the deliverable completed as shown in the table of deliverables in your work authorization or specific deliverable contract without work authorizations. Enter the amount for the deliverable in cell D13. The billing amount must match the completed line item number as shown in the table of deliverables in your work authorization or specific deliverable contract without work authorizations. Continue to add deliverable descriptions and associated amounts for each corresponding CSJ and function code that have been completed and submitted for the billing period. Scroll down to the Deliverable Detail section, cell A1568. Enter the date that the deliverables were accepted and approved by the TxDOT PM. This date should match the end service date shown on the Invoice tab, cell C13. Enter the deliverable description. This will be the same description as shown in the deliverable breakdown section above. The deliverable description shown here should match the description shown under the same heading under deliverable breakdown by CSJ, detail number, or function code above, starting with cell C13. Repeat the data entry for each line item billed under the deliverable breakdown section. Now roll up the blanks. Scroll to the top and click in the lower right corner of the deliverable description header. Uncheck blanks and click OK. Coming back to the Invoice tab in the Details section, it's now time to enter final information in the remaining yellow cells. As you can see, the middle cells are pre-populated from the other tabs, but the district or division number needs to go into the first column cells, and then the 2-digit PCBU number, which is usually 76. And lastly, using the chart to the right, find the account object of expenditure code that goes with each function code noted and fill that in. So here we see that 7253 applies to function code 150, and 7256 applies to function code 163. We have completed this page, so roll up the blanks with the button in column D, project cell. Check that total, $60,934.31. Now on the Signature Authority tab, and the WA Financial Status tab, and the Invoice tab, and finally the COA Invoice Conversion tab is also $60,934.31. Scroll to the top and note that all the information has been populated for TxDOT data entry. You will again need to roll up the blanks. In the Amount header, cell B9, click in the lower right corner, uncheck the blanks, and click OK. If you have an additional supplemental invoice for a different payment type to include in this billing, there are just a few more steps. Go to the Signature Authority tab, and on line 2, click the drop-down and select the type of invoice being added. In this case, we will select Specified Rate. Include the amount of that invoice. We know that $5,000 additional will be billed on this lump sum invoice. Click over to the Work Authorization Financial Status Summary tab and note that the amount is added to lines E13 and E14, but it will not change the total shown on the Invoice tab. The supplemental amount shown on the Signature Authority tab and the WA Financial Status Summary tab will include the total for this invoice and the supplemental invoice. A separate invoice package for the specified rate in the amount of $5,000 as shown on the Signature Authority tab will be attached to the lump sum invoice package. When using a supplemental invoice, in this example the supplemental template is to add a specified rate template. A master template must be set up and then the billing information must be added to the template per instructions. To identify the specified rate template as a supplemental template identified in the lump sum template, you will go to the Invoice tab and change the log number to log number 2, just below the top provider invoice number. Be sure to attach the second lump sum invoice and its documentation to the back of this invoice package when you send everything off. Click over to the Signature page, and under the Prompt Payment Verification section, enter the provider invoice number for prompt payment verification, the date the provider received payment, and the begin service and end service date. And then there is a place for the signature. Lastly, fill in the information on the person that prepared the invoice, name, title, and contact information. And then finally, the provider invoice date. Make sure that the date entered is the date that the invoice is actually submitted to TxDOT for processing. Verify that this date has populated cell D4 of the Invoice tab. For final preparation, right-click on the Instructions tab and select Hide. Right-click on FC and Hide, Master Template Hide, and your invoice is prepared in the right order. Right-click on one of the remaining tabs and click on Select All Sheets. Go to the file, print and check that the pages are printing correctly. Adjust margins and delete blank pages as needed. Do a Save as PDF or Print to PDF. Check the print view of each page and produce the PDF. If it is combined with different methods of payment, be sure to attach all your supporting documentation to the back of the invoice and send the completed package to PEPS Invoice Center at TxDOT.gov using the standard subject line indicated in this video.